Hi there, this is Design Start, and today we are continue to talk about autolayout. So in the first video, I explained the general basics of autolayout, how it works, what is autolayout, how to create autolayouts, and today I'm going to show you some more advanced features and actually show you the benefit of using autolayout. So here I've created a couple of elements, and we will use them to organize content in autolayouts and to show the basic principles of how autolayouts work. So here we have checkbox, we have text, and we have another icon, which is an arrow. And this is basically like we will use it as a typical element for a list. And I will try to explain you different options related to autolayouts. So first of all, let's create autolayout from checkbox and item. To do that, we select both of them, and we can create autolayout by pressing this item or just Shift A. So here we have autolayout. We have it centered, left aligned, and in the middle. Let's decrease the space between this checkbox and our text. And this is like the first thing, right? So let's copy this, and we'll see that if we change the text, everything will be changed. We still have this distance preserved, but the text could be quite long. So let's start from the first thing that we can have here is that we can limit this text. Now we have hug selected, but we can say that we want it to be fixed width. For instance, let's do it like 160. And then you can see that we can basically fill this with different text. And in this case, the text will occupy the space we decided to have for this text. And we see that this checkbox will be aligned in the middle as we decided to do it. So for instance, if I now change this alignment to top left, you can see that here we have basically more nice alignment, but obviously it's because in this case we have this item as a text, as a long text. Alternatively, for this case, we didn't have that. So for this reason, we didn't know that we need to do this kind of alignment. So in this case, if you want to align, like you can see that here we have a text, and here we have checkbox, and we would want to align this checkbox the same way as here. So to do that, you just can select the text, create autolayout just from text, change all the distances to 0 for now, and then what you need to increase the distance at the top. So here you can press this one, you select just top one, and then you add like 4. And in this case, you can see that it's basically centered. Obviously, it depends on the font, it depends on the size of an icon, but basically it allows you to have something like that. Let's get back to our more typical item. So again, we now have the alt layout here, and let's add another item to auto layout. And now we have basically auto layout, and inside this auto layout we have another auto layout. I will explain later on how it benefits us, but basically whenever you design something, you need to have in mind how this item should behave and which elements should be grouped with which elements. So as we have here a new auto layout, we can add some paddings here. Let's do 12. And then we also can add a fill, so it will be more visually appealing and visually better way represented. Now, basically what we have here, we have auto layout, which has a distance to another item here. It's like 136. And for instance, like if I want to have it responsive, nothing happens, right? Because it's like we have some settings that are done in slightly different way. So to make sure that it's responsive, what we should do, we should make this one not hug but fill container. And then we can also do it 0. How it works? Basically, fill container means that this item will fill all the space of this like bigger after layout, bigger container until the next object in line. So basically these are two objects, but this object occupies the whole space that it's allowed to occupy. So this, what it does, it basically allows you to do something like that. It makes this item responsive, and you basically can move this object here and there. However, it doesn't mean that it's, for instance, if I want to change this item to a longer name, at some point it will just continue to occupy the whole space. And in this case, to do slightly different, you need to change the width of this item to have context. And the same should go for this one. In this case, it will not be responsive in terms of the changes of this card, but it will allow you to change the text, and this will basically push this item further. Let's get back to the more original one. Now, imagine you want to create a list of these items. So you copy it, and then from these two items you create after layout. In this case, it will be vertical, and you create more of those. Now, imagine you want to change the width of these items. Nothing changes, and this is again because the parameters of this item is fixed. Instead, it should be changed to fill container everywhere, and now it's again responsive. Obviously, some things should be taken into account, like you need to understand what is the value for this one. For instance, if I want to make it slightly different, for instance, like that, like obviously this will be a problem. In this case, for instance, if I want always to have items on different sides of my object, I can do another trick. So I can change the spacing mode to space in between, and in this case again I will always have nice alignment, but in this case I can limit. For instance, I always want it to be 200, and the same goes for this one, so I'm providing here always 200. And then if I want to change something, it will adapt. So this is a very helpful thing, because basically I can create responsive elements where I can change things, and all the distances will be preserved. So I will always have the nice padding, the distances between these objects. So now it's 0, but I can also increase those if I want to. And it will be very easy, and I don't need to think about, okay, I need to align things, I need to make sure that all the distances are right, because they are done automatically. In other case, what could be done, for instance, we can have like a KPI card. Imagine you have something like that. So again, you basically need to make auto layout from these two objects, and then you can do auto layout with these two objects. You decrease this one, you decrease this one. Then again, as in the previous case, if you want to align them on one line, you just take this auto layout and increase the padding at the top, and then you create another auto layout from these two objects. And here you have nice auto layout. Now let's do again the paddings. Provide some fill. Let's do the rounds, corner radius. And then you can add another one here. Create auto layout from these two objects. And now it's again very easy. You change the value here. You change the value here. And it's very nice because it's basically very adaptable, and you don't need to think about the layout, the changes of the distances, etc. It's all automatically aligned to what you want. The only thing is that in general you need to think about the corner cases for all the items, and for this reason, for instance, you can say that, okay, I want always to be fixed width, for instance 160, and the same goes for this one, because I know that in some point I can have bigger item and this potentially will create some troubles. Alternatively, imagine you have these items and you have fixed widths. So for instance, I know that this frame will occupy something like 1000 pixels, and I will have like a couple of, let's say, 6 items. No, let's do 4. So my whole frame is like 1000 pixels, and I have 4 elements that I want to distribute evenly on this whole length. So for this, I will just make all of those fill container, and again it will be completely responsive depending on the width I'm working with. Obviously, if it becomes too small, it can create some problems, and that is why you need to always take this into account when you're designing things, because you need to think about the corner cases regarding the maximum and minimum values. Obviously, for like smaller screens, in this particular case, they will be in 2 rows. So to do that, you can just make autolayout 1, autolayout 2, and then change the alignment like that. And again, it will be condensed, something like that. So as you can see, autolayout is a very powerful thing. I will create a couple of more videos related to how to use autolayout for various cases like this, for tables, for maybe other elements. So please subscribe, like videos, comments, and see you in the next videos.